Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go Quick Look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have is the Yahiko Sanjo Shitogami, our whites number 2 Nashiji Bunka 165mm knife. So we will unpack all that. So the construction on these is 3 layers. The center hard core cutting edge steel is what's known as Shitogami or white paper number 2, a reactive high carbon steel. Heat treats typically in the 62-ish range for that. And on either side of that hard core steel, you've got a soft reactive iron cladding. And that iron cladding, and these are going to vary from knife to knife, but it has what's called a kudauchi, or kind of a blacksmith protective finish on it. This one is a lighter example. I've seen some variations in these. So this is an all-reactive knife, cladding and core, so there's no stainless or semi-stainless on it. These blades, the way they're made, will vary a little bit from knife to knife in terms of dimensions and weight and blade thickness and so on. So this particular one is 137 grams, or 4.8 ounces. The edge length is about 165, right on the money, or about 6.5 inches. And the overall length is about 317 millimeters, or 12.5 inches. The spine thickness, again, will vary from knife to knife, sample to sample. This particular one is about 3¼ millimeters thick above the back of the heel, and it thins down pretty quickly. And I got about 2 millimeters halfway down the blade. And then this style is that kind of reverse sword tip. So you can see it maintains that thickness, and then where does it thin out? It thins out with that grind as that grind goes down towards the cutting edge. So, and you can see it thins out pretty nicely. So that tip itself will be nice for detail work, and will do a really good job on soft product like, you know, onions and such. Here is the look at the choil shot, and so these are really, they ground pretty thin at the edge as well. The performance is very, very good on these. I was using the 210 Gyuto in the last batch that I did, and it was a stellar performing knife. The blade height on this is quite generous. It's 50 millimeters, so it's a pretty tall version of this. You can see the shape of that. And the handle is a D-shaped handle that's a burnt chestnut with a buffalo horn ferrule. They've smoothed out the transition, so it's very smooth as it goes from the wood to the buffalo horn, and that has caused the finish to lighten up as they sand it down. I think it's a cool look, but it's very, very smooth, and a good tight glue up on these, so the handles are really cool on these. If you're worried about a D-shaped, if you're a lefty, I'm a lefty, personally the D-shapes do not bother me one bit. You know, if I'm pinching like that, the D part is up here and I don't even really feel it. If you're a right-hander, that D shape does kind of give you a little bit of an index to kind of lock in on it. But don't be afraid if you're a lefty of a D shape. Some people even like to use this for their thumb, depending on what your preference is. They're pretty thin handles. This one's about 64 millimeters, or 2.5 inches, so it's a pretty thin handle. But you've got a nice spot right here for a pinch grip. And the handle being smaller is a little bit lighter, which is good for this knife because it brings the balance point back to a more neutral spot in terms of a pinch grip location. For me, that's awfully close to my pinch grip, if not right on the money. So what that means is for a lot of people, you're going to have a pretty neutral feel on this, a very nimble feel to it. It's got a fair amount of, yeah, actually I should say a lot of stiffness, being pretty tall, and a fair amount of, you know, spine thickness to it. So it's got a real stiff, confident feel on the board. You've got some pretty high grinds on it. It's very straight, somewhat flattish heel section given the shortness of the length, and nice grinds on these. So well-crafted blades. Edge out of the box, I'd say I'd give it a 6 out of 10 on my scale. It was pretty sharp, pretty decently crafted edge. Here's our kind of beauty shot. On the right side of the blade, as you'd be holding it, using it, you've got hand-engraved or hand-chiseled kanji. And as you put your finger over there and move it around, you will feel the raised edges on that. You've got kind of a mottled Nashiji or pear skin finish on that. And it's going to vary from knife to knife, but fairly smooth, just a little bit of texture to it. You've got the spine actually shows the 3 layers, so they're exposing those layers at the top. So just kind of a cool look. So the cladding does not wrap over the top on this one. They've got a little bit of relief on the corners of the spine, and they've got some, some file work and a little bit of polish or a little bit of finish work on the choil as well, so it's comfortable out of the box. These tend to have just a little bit of overgrowth grind on the metal, so you might feel a little bit in there, but you could always just clean that up just a touch. But generally speaking, they're pretty darn comfortable right out of the box. What else here? Let's look at the cutting board profile. So you can see it's a fairly short blade, it's tall, but here's your profile. A lot of bunkas, even though this tip is fairly low, you still got some reasonably aggressive belly in the front third, so I can get in there with a rock. So this will actually rock nicely over product as well, and you've got a little bit of flattish towards the heel, but not much. So it's not going to be a real chopper, but it'll do a nice job with a lot of different techniques, including a little bit of rocking. And the tip is low enough that it'll do some pretty nice tip draws for you as well, if you like to do that. So this is just a neat line of knives. The craftsmanship is good. They're nice and straight. The grinds are clean. The performance is really good. It's just a very cool line of knives Mark has brought in. So this is the Yahiko Sanjo Shidogami, or White number 2 Nashiji Bunka 165mm knife.